Good evening, everyone. Welcome to The Outer Realm with myself, Michelle Desrochers and Amelia Pisano. We are broadcasting live here on the UFO Paranormal Radio Network, 107.7 FM and 105.3 FM in New Orleans. Tonight, we have Preston Dennett joining us again. He returns to the show. We had so much fun last time. So we're really looking forward to that. And of course, we will be talking about everything UFO. So settle in and get yourselves ready for a great show. But remember, in order to participate, you'll have to pop over to either the UFO Paranormal YouTube page, subscribe, get into chat, and we can definitely connect up with you. We'll also be streaming across another 7 different platforms. You'll find all kinds of them on the United Public Radio Network and UFO Paranormal, and anything that our producer Joe Montaldo has on Facebook. You'll also find us on Twitch. You will be able to communicate in the chat rooms for these different places, but we're not going to be able to respond to you unless we do it verbally. The only way we can type back is on the YouTube chat. Sorry about that, but it's kind of the way it goes, unfortunately. So I'm thinking now. So Amelia is just going to be.
I've shared everything. I can't get on Canada's Most Haunted. It doesn't even come up as an option.
That is absolutely ridiculous.
Yeah.
Seriously is. Seriously is. It's okay.
I'll give them a little bit of information about Preston. I haven't had the pleasure of meeting him yet. Preston Dennett began investigating UFOs and the paranormal in 1986, when he discovered that his family, friends, and co-workers were having dramatic, unexplained encounters. Since then, he has interviewed hundreds of witnesses and investigated a wide variety of paranormal phenomena. He is a field investigator for the Mutual UFO Network. That is MUFON for all of those of you who follow. A ghost hunter, a paranormal researcher, and an author of 26 books and more than 100 articles on UFOs and the paranormal. Several of his books have been Amazon UFO bestsellers. His articles have appeared in numerous magazines, including Fate, Atlantis Writing, MUFON UFO, Journal Nexus Paranormal Magazine, UFO Magazine, Phenomena Magazine, Mysteries Magazine, Ufologist, and believe it or not, others. His writing has been translated into several different languages, which you can look for on the outlets where you can purchase his book. There's a long list here. He's also appeared on many radio and television programs, including Coast to Coast and the History Channel's Deep Sea UFOs and UFO Hunters. His research has been presented in the LA Times, the LA Daily News, the Dallas Morning News, and other newspapers. We can really say that he's been everywhere. He has taught classes on various paranormal subjects and lectures across the United States. Please welcome Preston Dennett to the show. I need a deep breath.
I know, that's a big one. Hi.
Hi, how are you?
Hi, guys. I'm doing good. How are you?
Good. I'm still breathing. I'm like, yeah, it worked. So nice to meet you.
You too. Yeah.
How are you?
I'm doing good. Yeah, just got through LA traffic, which is getting back to normal.
Oh, I bet. It's never fun and a good time. I've been through LA traffic, and it's just been a nightmare. So, but I'm really glad you come back. I've been really looking forward to this. I've actually had people over, since your last appearance saying, "Is Preston coming back on?" It's like, yes, absolutely. Yeah, the show and the archives did really well. So people are just loving what you have to say. And I, for one, like to watch your YouTube videos. So when they come up, I go and I check them out. And I got to have a little marathon there yesterday, which was great. So,
awesome.
So what do you have new going on? What's up with you?
Oh, working hard. I'm setting up interviews for another book. That's going to be exciting.
Ooh.
And just putting out a new book. I'm doing the final proofs.
Oh.
So that should be out
No, go ahead.
Should be out in a month or two. As long as everything goes smoothly.
That's the thing right there. Does it go smoothly? So is that something that you could touch on a little bit tonight?
Oh yeah, sure. I'll
Okay,
give you a little bit of a scoop, a sneak peek.
Okay, why don't we start with that, and then we'll just flow from there because we have so much to cover.
All right. Yeah, it's called Wondrous: 25 True UFO Encounters. And what I love about this is it's all my own research. These are all brand new, original, unpublished cases. You haven't heard them before.
Wow.
With a slight caveat, there is one I did write an article about many years ago for, gosh, I think it was UFO Universe magazine.
Oh.
Yeah, these are by and large all brand new cases, and that's what I just love doing, because these are really extensive cases, people who are taken on board or had face-to-face contact. But I also included some cases I've been sitting on for a while because I never found a place to squeeze them in, like UFO landing cases, or this really cool USO account that is just
yeah, you don't hear a whole lot about the USOs, do you?
No, there's not a lot out there. I've had a lot of people contact me because I couldn't find any information, and yours was the only book on it. And because I did a book on it, so yeah, there's not a lot of information. It surprises me.
Yeah, because every time you talk to people, they talk about experience about seeing the stars, but it's never like the sea, underwater. It's like, do they take them to a base? Is it like a lot of people believe like there's underwater cities?
Yeah,
way down.
I'll raise my hand there.
Oh, do you really?
Yeah, I do. I think I've got a good, compelling case. I can't prove it, but I've talked to people who were, abducted, taken, and normally when that happens, they describe this little rounded room, and they're physically examined. They're on board a UFO. Well, I've got at least 4 cases where people didn't describe that. These were people who were taken along the Southern California coast, or at Catalina Island.
Wow.
Which is where all this stuff is going on. And they describe vast underground chambers with rock walls and things like this.
Sounds, like definitely not on the ship anymore.
That's
We're not in Kansas anymore, Dorothy.
I know, right?
Where the hell are we?
I've got the shoes. This thing. I've got the shoes. Seriously. So when they describe this to you, how do you react? Like the first time you heard it, what were you thinking?
Oh, I was surprised. Because certainly I've heard this from other people, and it's in the literature. It's not super common. I've had only only one case is really coming to mind. I'm sure there must be others. But yeah, a lady in Nebraska, a housewife, she had an incredible experience where she was not taken on board a UFO. She wakes up and she's in this huge, she felt it was underground. It was this giant auditorium with a giant dome ceiling, in indirect lighting, which is sort of a red flag that I look for. No lamps, no lights. These places are just lit by some method that we don't quite understand. I asked them, well, are the walls glowing? Is that it? And like, no, I don't think so. I don't think that's it. But,
wow.
Yeah, her case is so weird.
Yeah, that's crazy. I mean, tell us more if you can. I'm not sure what you're allowed to say or not.
Oh yeah. I published this case in one of my books. I think it was Inside UFOs. And she at the time, she was getting really sick. She had some sort of hypoglycemia disorder, and was passing out and losing weight. She had just had a kid, but yeah, had to carry around food and orange juice wherever she went, because she was passing out multiple times daily, and the doctors couldn't figure it out. They're like, it's not diabetes. We don't know what it is. And she was getting dangerously thin, and actually had just went to the kitchen to grab some orange juice and a peanut butter sandwich, and boom, she's not in her house anymore. She is in this huge underground chamber. And it's so weird because she says it had industrial carpet on the floor and cubicles. Very strange. Cubicles, hundreds of cubicles, and she's lying down on a table inside one of these cubicles. She can see across the hallway, the corridor, and there's another guy wearing a plaid shirt, and he's dazed and confused, and so is she. She's trying to gather her wits, and they start talking to each other to sort of calm themselves down because they're a little bit nervous.
Mm-hmm.
And he's like, "My name is Cooper. What's yours?"
Come here often.
Apparently. What do you recommend?
Yeah. It sounds kind of like government sort of abduction type.
Yeah, that's what I kind of thought, and she wondered about it, but I don't know, because I won't use her real name. I call her Jill.
Okay.
But she has no, there's nothing special in her family. Often people perhaps have military in their family, or Navy intelligence or something like this. But nope, she's just a housewife from Nebraska.
Wow.
And she was trying to orient herself when she sees this guy walking down the hallway, and he's not a normal looking guy. He is 9 feet tall. No kidding. And wearing tight black jumpsuit, kind of shiny, a cape.
The cape is new. I haven't heard that one before.
Very, very Star Trek-y.
Yeah, but it does turn up. It's not unique. This turns up in UFO accounts. And so he comes right to her and says, "All right, Jill, it's your turn." And she screams. She's pretty terrified. And he takes, he puts her down on this table and puts these little silver bell-like instruments, I guess, objects on her body, like on her pancreas and on various locations on her body.
Organs.
Yeah, so she can feel energy pulsing through them, and she's screaming and trying to get away, but she can't move at this point.
Is she feeling like discomfort, or is she like feeling nothing?
Just little bits of waves of energy. It's not painful. She doesn't know what's going on. I think that's the biggest fear here, is there's not a lot of communication. And this guy is, he's 9 feet tall.
Yeah, what are you going to do? I couldn't get past the cape.
I know. That's pretty different. She must have been thinking, like, what is he? What is going on?
Yeah, that's actually
why
why
she... What kind of fear level was she at that point? Could she breathe? She
was hyperventilating. So she's pretty, maybe not a 10, but at least a 9. So, she called me because she's like, "I want to know if you've ever heard of any entity like this." And she described this huge, broad face with a big chin, a very high forehead, strange kind of Asian-looking eyes, very compelling eyes. Which is something I almost always hear. It's always about the eyes. These ETs have a really strong mental abilities. And she's like, he didn't have hair. He had straw on his head, is what it looked like. 2-3 inches straw sticking straight up.
Well, some of them wear wigs too, though, right? To like throw you off and stuff.
Yep. I've heard that.
So humanoid ones. Yeah. I'd be just like, wow. It's like, get another wig.
Dude, I've got this guy.
I got that.
No, but seriously, do they do that so that we can't tell others what they look like?
They think it's a disguise.
They think.
I'm not sure he was disguised in this case. Maybe, but
then this is just a bad hair choice.
He likes having a bad hair day. Life,
Yeah, but I have heard them dressed up as, oh gosh, you name it, clowns, cowboys, in a pinstripe suit. I got more than one case of that.
That is freaking crazy.
Yeah, and they'll put in screen memories. They'll look like teddy bears or superheroes or Barbie dolls or...
Wow. Yeah, I guess it's because we behave like, like children are up there. Well, leave me alone. Don't touch me. It's bad touch. Don't. I could see that.
I don't like this.
Yeah. So what happened with her is, she passes out, right? And doesn't know quite what happened next. She wakes up in her home. She's standing when she comes back and she checks herself. She's appears to be fine. So she runs to her husband, who was sleeping on the couch. He had a snoring problem.
We've all been there, right?
So he won't wake up. He will not wake up, and she's shaking him like as much as she can. This is what I would call hypnotic sleep. This occurs quite frequently. So she runs to her children. She's got an infant and another older child, and they won't wake up. And we'll just she's not super religious, but she starts saying the Lord's Prayer as best as she can remember. And it took her about 20-30 minutes to wake them up. And they were very supportive. Yeah, God bless them, because this can cause divorces, and people, family members are sometimes not happy about this.
No, because the first thing you think about are your children.
Exactly, but they were very supportive. And here's where it gets interesting. She was very sore for the next, actually almost a week or two. She felt a lot of soreness where these objects were. And it was about this, not that day, but the second day she noticed, like, gosh, I'm feeling good. I'm actually feeling much better. She didn't pass out. She was no longer passing out.
And she fixed her.
Yeah, she had more energy. She started to gain weight. And after a couple of weeks, she was back to normal. She's like, I think they healed me. And I started questioning more and more. She does have a history of encounters. Actually, she's the one who said that they came to her when she was a little girl, dressed up as teddy bears. But yeah, she saw through this disguise. They were grays. Early on.
Grays with bad straw hair. Why does that make not? It totally makes sense now.
This is such a first for me.
Yeah, and her mom once put on tinfoil on all the windows to keep out the heat. They came one day and like, what's with this tinfoil? Why is it there? And she said, oh, it's to keep out the heat. And they said, no, really, what's the real reason? She said, it's to keep out the heat. And they're like, no, I don't think we were telling us the truth. And she says, it's to keep out the heat. And
does it keep them out?
An offended gray. That's just amazing.
Yeah, Amelia, I think you're right. I think they can't see through it with their sensing devices.
I gotta get tinfoil up on my windows.
That's very interesting. I think we need to tin Michelle's roof. Aluminum everywhere right now.
Now we get grays.
Yeah, I'm just guessing.
You're talking tin foil, right? Just tin foil.
Tin foil hat that everybody makes jokes about.
Yeah, aluminum foil. And she searched the internet and she found another case. And I had to laugh because we did that in our house when I was little.
Did you really? Did it work? Did it work?
Well, I don't know that we were having contact. So, but maybe my parents knew something I didn't.
I think so.
Makes me wonder.
That's fascinating. That is really fascinating. Just the simplest
really
of things.
Because you see it in the movies and you just think, oh, the tinfoil hats, and you kind of giggle. But that is really interesting. Of course, look at Dolly says tinfoil. Dolly's here, Preston.
Yeah.
Tinfoil does block electromagnetic radiation. So, Preston, if you're in the board and you just click on the comments, you'll be able to see the chats.
Oh,
at the top where it says underneath where it says sign up for free, click comments and they'll all come up.
Yeah. And then you should be able to see all the chats come up because Dorothy's in chat. So do you see them there?
No, I don't see it.
It'll either say private chat or comments.
Is this on the screen we're on right now?
Not a total block, but enough to be annoying. Thank you, Dolly. You have no idea how much that means.
Like for us, it's on the right-hand side of the screen. Of the square.
Well, I'll look for it, but I am not seeing it.
Oh, darn it. Okay, sorry. Well, we'll just relink.
Because everything's white.
Oh, wait. There it is.
It's this comment. Right-hand corner.
Islander. Yay.
Yeah, it's right where you said it was. I got it. Learn to follow directions.
Underneath
side. It's okay. You're a man. You get it.
Hey, we're teaching you every day. There you go. We just taught you something now. Curiosity, because you do handle a lot of the more benign cases. Most of the stories like that I hear, most people hear, I think they tend to be pretty freaking terrifying. I can tell you I've become comfortable with it, but my experiences have been sort of, like they're like almost like creeper, like, what are you doing at night creeping around my freaking bed? Like, it's bloody disturbing. Come during the day, like, other people get. Why don't I get during the day visits?
There are cases where they've knocked on people's doors. Whitley Strieber had that.
Really?
He had Michael Talbot sleeping over, an author and friend, and this bag lady knocks on the door, and Whitley Strieber heard it. Michael Talbot answered the door, and Whitley Strieber creeps down and looks, and no, it's not a bag lady, it's a gray.
You gotta give him something for creativity. The straw hair and the bag lady look, like that's actually that doesn't happen here. It's just like weird creeping around, making noise, shuffling, bugging the dogs.
I don't think they're trying to scare people. I really don't. Yeah, it's scary. And coming in your room at night, I can see why that's scary.
It's like you're slumbering. It's your safe place. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's intrusive.
But often the first words out of their mouth is, "Don't be afraid. We won't hurt you." And that's
they speak.
Often, oh yeah, telepathically, usually.
So then it's like, why are you creeping around my bed in the middle of the night? Then it's like stalkerish. It's just really, that's what I think makes it unnerving. That's supposed to be your safe place where you feel safe. You go to sleep, so your subconscious is wide open because you're at rest, and then you've got. I might wake up one day. There's one night. It's like right there beside me. I could reach out and touch it. I'm just like, nope.
Yeah.
Go back to bed.
I think it's convenient for them because they know where you are,
Sure.
and they do come at night, and they are evasive and a little secretive for sure. Yeah. But again, they'll say, don't be afraid. We're not here to hurt you. We won't hurt you, but you do need to come with us.
Do some people have experiences that cause them pain?
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. Okay. Here's an example of my book, Onboard UFO Encounters, covers 15 cases. And I looked at it and I'm like, there are 2 people in that book who are like, this was bad for me. I don't like it. One guy's very religious. He thinks they're demonic. Another guy from England, he's a wonderful man. I call him Gary. And he had an experience when, as a child, they would come to his bedroom at night. It was pretty scary.
Mm-hmm.
He had an abusive childhood, poor guy, but moved out at around age 18 or 19 and started to thrive. And he wakes up one night as a young man. I think he was 20 years old. And thought he had a motorcycle accident and woke up in the hospital. And then he looks up, because he's lying out on the table. And he's not in the hospital. There's a scary-looking tall gray, who proceeds to take a very large needle. No one likes needles. And sticks it in his head. And he says, "Ow, ow, you're hurting me." And the gray didn't stop, and it didn't it didn't say a word, and proceeds to just stick it deeper. And so poor Gary starts screaming and lets loose a string of cuss words, which I won't repeat on the air, but beginning with F and F. I mean,
That's why I was real surprised when you said, "Ow." That made me laugh. I'm like, "Ow!" I'd have been screaming.
No. He's going, "You bleeping, bleep, 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 you black bastard, blah." And stop. You're hurting me. And they didn't stop. And they gave all the care of a lab rat. I was nothing more than an animal to them. I mean,
Why do you think? Why do you think some people have such amazing experiences and some people have such horrific experiences?
I'm trying to figure this out. I don't think in most cases they're trying to hurt people, because often when that happens, what they will do is put their hand on your forehead and stop the pain. But not always. And they didn't do it in his case. And I often will tell cases of people being healed, and other people are like, "Well, that didn't happen to me. It was horrific. They hurt me." I think we're dealing with people. We are dealing with people who behave the same way people do. Their behavior falls into the same umbrella as human behavior. There's a bell curve. There's some people who don't have nice encounters, and my heart goes out to them. And there's some people who have wonderful encounters. And that's what I found in the 15 cases in that one book. There was 2 or 3 who had really wonderful encounters, and the rest were like, it's a mixed bag. It can be very scary in the beginning, but if you can move past your fear, they won't paralyze you. They will actually give you free reign of the ship. You can explore. You can go to the control room. They'll explain and answer all your questions. Honest to God, this is, by and large, not a bad experience for a lot of people. But that physical examination is where it goes south often.
Yeah, I could see why, God. So is there like a prequel to these visits or abduction periods? I mean, I've seen bright lights. I mean, I hear humming a lot, but I mean, I will anyway. So what are the typical things to look for? Because I mean, I think there's many cases where people just don't see it coming.
Yeah, well, there are things that will indicate an upcoming encounter. One thing we certainly look for is like childhood. Have you had childhood experiences? And that's pretty much universal. If they were coming in your bedroom as a kid, they're going to keep coming. But people can feel them coming. A sighting. People like have a sighting, and that might indicate like, oh, they picked you out. Get ready. Put on your seatbelt. They're coming. There's people feel them coming. There's a anxiety that can precede this. In fact, with Gary, he starts to feel this energy, and he got really perceptive at feeling this, and he can tell when they're in the room, and he actually became immune to it, because normally when that happened, he would not be able to move, but he somehow broke through that. And once he felt them, he's like, oh my God, they're here, they're here, they're here. And he's hiding under his covers. And so he whips off his covers, and there's a gray, and he reaches back and smacks this little guy in the face.
Oh, that's not going to get you brownie points in the examination room at all. I'm amazing he could catch him.
Yeah, that little gray was not happy. He says, they may look cute and harmless, but when he hit it, its face changed. It opened its mouth real wide and revealed all these little sharp teeth. And
I thought, like a shark.
Yeah.
Different rows.
Yep.
Wow.
Which was like, wow. Because I heard this before. I'm like, like, what do the teeth look like? Because they were sharp and pointed. Yes. Yeah, I have heard this. He had another time. His bathroom was on the bottom floor across in the kitchen. He had to walk all the way through the house. And so he's walking down the stairs one evening. He doesn't sleep hardly at all. He sleeps maybe an hour or two per evening. He says he just doesn't need sleep. This is something I hear from a lot of contactees. They don't need a lot of sleep, or they're insomniacs. But he's walking down the stairs to go to the bathroom in the middle of the night, and there's a gray in his living room. And this has happened before. And last time he was knocked out. This time he was ready. He runs up to this little guy and grabs its neck. And it starts windmilling its arms. Get off me, get off me, get off me, get off me, telepathically in his head. And he's like squeezing it. He was angry. And, I get it. I get it.
I do. I mean, I'm surprised that the gray didn't fight back, I mean, I one time had one here, and it started like touching the top of my head, and in my mind all I remember saying is, I'll snap your neck. That was it. It was very impulsive, but I didn't actually reach over to do it either. Now that I know his teeth, I might reconsider that.
No, I've never ever heard any of them biting somebody. No, that's never.
It's just accent. Yeah.
I think he was just like, I don't know, but yeah, some people will react violently, and he certainly did. And shortly after, something came up behind him, because they're usually not alone. They've got their buddies along with them.
It's true.
2, 3. Usually they come in threes. And he was knocked out. Yeah, I talked to one lady who's having crazy abductions, and she woke up with the grays around her bed, and she wasn't happy. And she jumps up and kicks one in the neck, and it did snap. They are frail little beings, and this is the reason they will paralyze people, because they're a little delicate. But again, when people are taken on board, the very worst thing that happens is that examination. But
it's terrifying.
That's
though,
enough, isn't it? Though.
Yeah.
Probing.
Yeah, it's not always fun. I don't want to be, anally probed. I don't, and I don't like needles either.
No, I'm not good with the needles.
But they do heal people. I'm telling you, I've got 300 cases of them healing people, and that's often what they're doing. And again, if you don't have a strong fear reaction, this can go much differently. What I don't see sadism. I don't see torture. I don't think they're trying to hurt people. But some of them are like, I guess, police officers or doctors or military officials who have a job to do. It's an emergency. Their race is dying. They have got to get this done. But the bedside manner could definitely be improved, and it's my number one complaint. Don't kidnap people. Ask them.
Yeah, I think that's, I think you'd probably get a lot of people that might, if they figure they're going to get a pleasant experience. I think people are rather curious about it. Like I said, once I learned how to relax, which wasn't easy, but once I did, I think it bothers me more that they bug the dogs, because the dogs are only 3 pounds each, and it bothers the hell out of them. And I mean, at one point I even said, like, at least, like, there's one, she's after seizure, she's just not right mentally anymore, and she can't see, even though her eyes work. It's just all neurological. And I'm like, fix the dog. At least do something if you're going to lurk around and bother them.
Hey, I have cases of that.
I was just going to ask you, have they?
Yeah. I think there's 5 cases I found of people whose dogs were healed. I put out a video on this and got some response. Like, they did that to me too. One lady, her dog was attacked by a raccoon and its eye was hanging half out.
Oh.
And they cured it. Another guy had a dog who had a seizure, Ray Hernandez. He's actually really well known in the field. His dog had an aneurysm. Nina, poor little dog, had a fox terrier. The kind that was on Frasier, that little
cute,
little cute dog.
Jack Russell.
Yeah, Jack Russell Terrier.
Yeah.
I'd love to get one of those, but I don't think I could handle it.
They're very hyperactive. You need to have the time for them. They need to burn that energy off.
Yeah, but they cured Nina, the Jack Russell Terrier, and she was running around and barking and yipping like a puppy.
So they can do it. They can
and do. And not only dogs. I've got a case of a horse. Roosters. That's a really interesting case. there was
wow. Okay, that's different.
Yeah, there was a rooster fight, and one of these illegal rooster fights in Texas. This was some years ago, and these 2 roosters were fighting to the death and badly injured when a UFO shows up and sends on these beams of light and cures them. I think there's a message there.
Yeah, right.
Like, what are you doing?
Yeah, sort of knocked out a few of the participants there while they were at it. Sacred rooster, buzz off.
And a gibbon with leukemia was cured.
Wow.
Yeah.
So what does it take to get an animal cured? Do I have to hold it up like, circle of life? Like, what do I have to do to get this dog fixed? Honestly, like, they're here. Like, is it like a technique? Is it like it's just bizarre?
Yeah, it's very bizarre because, I found 300 cases of people being healed, and I found less than 10 of animals. But an animal can't say, hey, guess what happened to me? So I think there's probably a lot more, but I don't know. It's very curious. These healings are largely on the ET's terms. I'm guessing there's a lot more than we hear about. It's not something people run to the media with, and the media is not really interested. They like scary stories, not the friendly ones. And if you say an alien cured your dog, you're opening yourself up to ridicule.
But you know what? It would be worth it. I would take the ridicule, and I think
I wouldn't need to tell anyone. I just lavish in it and thank them.
If the aliens do that, to me, that's showing a sign of good faith. If they were doing that for people and word was getting out a little bit more, I think people might be more inclined to say, okay, maybe then I would be a little bit more apt to be open-minded and assist. And okay, what is it you need from me?
Yeah.
But everything from them is always help us, help us, help us.
Well, yeah. The case with the gibbon involves a contactee, and she asked them, she prayed. And this is what I see in some cases. People do ask for healing, and it does occur. One lady, she, I don't know if she had a history of encounters actually. But she suffered total renal failure. Wasn't urinating for like 2 or 3 days, and went to the doctor, and he's furious and terrified. He's like, "Oh my God, what took you so long? You have to go to the emergency room right now. You're in total renal failure. You need dialysis. What were you thinking? Let's go." And she's like, okay, oh my God, I'll go. But she didn't. She went home first to tell her family like what's happening to her. She says, "Pray for me." She called her parents, she called her siblings, she called her work and her friends.
Wow.
And says, "Pray for me, pray for me, pray for me." And she passed out and wakes up in the middle of the night, and there's these short figures around her bed. They're not crazed. They're brown skinned, got kind of round eyes, and are massaging her abdomen. She can't move, and they're doing it for a while, gosh, over an hour, she said. And she passes out, wakes up the next morning and feeling good. She goes to the bathroom. She's like, "Wow, I think they cured me." Goes to the doctor, and he's like, what, how did this happen? She says, "I think angels came."
Little brown ones.
Yeah.
Yes, that's what she told her family. That's what she told everybody. But 2 months later, she's pulled on board a craft. And it's clearly a craft. There's rounded walls. There's a table. They've got an X-ray machine over her. I've heard this described from many people, actually. It displays your organs in full living color as a hologram. One lady, it happened to her. She instantly barfed when she saw that. It was just too much. But this lady's looking at her body, the inside of her body, and they show her kidneys. And they're like, "Look, your kidneys look much better. Don't they?" She's like, "Yeah, they do." And they're going over and like, "Here's your liver. See all these dark spots?" And the lady's like, "Yeah." And they said, "Your liver is unhealthy. You need to stop drinking Diet Coke."
Wow, so they're like little doctors, little MDs, gray MDs.
A lot of people should stop drinking that. Can I just take a question in the chat room before we lose sight of the topic? Linda Corino's here, our friend Linda. Hi, Linda. "I've always wondered how they choose people. Is it random?"
Oh boy, I looked into this real hard, and I finally figured it out. At least 50% of the cases are people who have a history of contact in their family. They are tracking genetic lines. They're all about genetics. They're trying to improve the human race. Honestly, it's what I think they're doing. This hybrid baby thing may seem new, but I'm not sure it is. Because if you look at ancient writings and people mating with the gods, this sort of thing.
It's true. The ancients lived very well with the gods.
Right?
The gods, E.T.
So yeah, they're all about genetics, and they're tracking family lines. But there's a lot of people like, "No, it was a one-off. This has never happened to me before since." I'm like, "Well, gosh." And so I examined all my files. I'm like, "Well, it's evenly divided between men and women. Very young children, old people, doesn't matter what race you are, white, black, Asian, that's not it. It's not your political affiliation.
Right.
It's not your religion. It's not where you live." I'm like, "Well, gosh, it's got to be something. It's not your blood type." And what I did find a pattern, and it's a loose pattern. But what I found is that people who are having contact are doing good work for humanity in some way. And by that, I mean these are musicians, lots of musicians, lots of doctors, social rights activists, human rights, animal rights, artists, teachers, writers, this sort of thing. People, inventors. There was a really interesting case where a guy had a hole in his heart. This guy England, Durham, England. Fred White was his name, and he saw a UFO a couple of years before this one experience. You could see people through the porthole and like, wow, I saw a UFO. And a couple of years later, he was diagnosed with a hole in his heart and having a lot of trouble breathing, a lot of pain, and like, we're going to have to do an operation. And he's in the hospital when in walks this doctor who looks a little strange. He's wearing a jumpsuit. He's got very strange eyes and a weird thing on his wrist that's not a watch, but kind of looks like one, and starts talking to him. Says, we're going to heal you. We're very interested in your work with electronics. He was an electronics inventor. He said, it's very important you continue your research. And they passed their hand over his chest, or the ET did. It was just one of them. And he's like, I'm breathing. The pain went away. He's breathing better. And so the doctors come in. They want to wheel him off to his operation. He's like, no, wait. Take x-rays again. They always do pre-op x-rays. And they had already done them, I think, in that case. And he's like, please, no, you can't take me. You've got to do more x-rays. And they did. And they're like, wow, what happened? Your heart is gone.
Wow.
Not your heart is gone. The hole in your heart is gone.
Yeah. Wow. So that to me is fascinating. It's so contradictory of so much of what you hear out there. I mean, you hear the stories of them healing, and it makes you wonder, what the ulterior motive, what is the price on that? But I mean, I think you've answered that question. It's just people who are doing good, for the planet, for other people, like service to others type of individuals.
There is another category. This is really interesting.
Yay, let's go.
It's if you're friends with a contactee. Yes. One lady was cured of cancer. One guy was friends with a contactee and had kidney stones. And they're rushing him to the hospital. They always do it like when you're on the way to the hospital or the night before. It's like, really? You have to wait to the last minute? So he's on his way to the hospital, and this UFO shows up and starts circling the car. And he's lying in the back seat screaming in pain. Kidney stones are painful.
Yeah.
And he's screaming, and it starts to get less and less. And he's like, I'm feeling pretty good. I think they're healing me. And I don't know how they did it.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's weird. There was no beam of light, which often happens. But just being in the presence of a UFO, maybe it's the energy, or they've got some way of doing it. They didn't have missing time. There was 4 people in the car, and nobody's reported anything. So they get to the hospital, and their kidney stones are gone.
That's amazing. See, like, yeah, I'm getting relaxed. Maybe I just have to be kinder.
This is why I'm like, I don't think they want to hurt people, but you know what? I don't think they're all our space brothers. That's it's terribly naive, I think, because I know they do pain threshold tests. Ugh, that is just mean.
It is.
Yeah,
that
especially
is
if you can tolerate a lot of pain. That's not very nice because you're going really far. Have they ever left things behind by accident with their abductees? Tools or anything like that by accident or on purpose?
Sometimes on purpose. There are a few cases. People have had, like Betty Hill had a stain on her dress that was very peculiar. They will sometimes dress you wrong, or perhaps it's you dressing yourself wrong. But people have returned in the wrong clothes, or in the wrong position in their bed or their car. But like Betty Andreasen, Betty Hill, she's walking off the UFO. She's getting ready. They had given her a book, or what seemed to be a book. And as she's walking down the ramp, they're like, wait, stop. We can't give you that book.
Give it back.
And she was really angry. But Betty Andreasen, a very well-known contactee, was given a book. And she had it in her house for 3 weeks. Showed it to her daughter. It had weird symbols in it. They said, don't show it to anybody. It's just for you. But people have gotten crystals. That's turned up in at least 4 or 5 cases.
Wow. Okay.
Bill Herman, he had a gray appear in his trailer and gave him this metal bar with the words man imprinted on it and little stars and stuff. And they said, this is our gift to you for you having cooperated with us. And this metal bar was analyzed and turned out to be galena, lead. But I got another case just like it. Well, it's not my case. This comes from a Constance Clear. And this other guy, he was healed of kidney stones, by the way, but his abductions were horrific. He was so mad. He had an encounter where he's taken on board, and this gray introduces herself. She says, "My name is Nelda. I am the highest ranking female on the ship. I'm the pilot. And I just want you to know that we're done with you. And aren't you happy?" And he says, no, I'm not happy. I'm mad as hell.
Yeah.
And she's surprised. And she says, "What's mad? What's hell?" And he's like, "Oh, God." And he explained to her. And she's like, "Oh, yeah, well, we do have problems with human emotions. Because some of these grays have genetically modified themselves for space travel. Some have genetic damage from apparently a war or a conflict, and have lost the ability to reproduce, have bred out their emotions, and don't quite understand how visceral our emotions are, how much we feel." And that's what she said. And but she says, "We're going to give you a gift. We're going to give you this metal bar." And she held it up. It was a sparkly little metal bar. She says, "You'll find it, and you'll know it's from us." And he did. He found it on his dresser, and he picks it up, and he tells his therapist, the lady he was working with, Constance Clear, says, "I'm coming over. I want to visit your office and have a meeting with you." And didn't say anything out loud, but on the way to her office was accosted by the men in black, run off the road, and they took his notes. They took that artifact and threatened him really bad. He's like, "You can't do this. I'm going to call the police." They're like, "Go ahead."
Yeah,
go ahead.
No one's going to believe you.
What do you do? Sorry, go ahead, Amelia.
I was going to ask a question from the chat room, but from Dan H. But I'm going to be very careful how I word this, Dan, because just using that word can get us ripped off of the internet. So do they have the ability to cure certain illnesses?
Oh yeah, I have
of that nature,
like worldwide. And why aren't they doing it like of one that's like happening right now? Maybe.
Yeah, they've cured every aspect of the human body. I've got many cases of cuts and injuries being healed, colds.
What about like a wand over the earth? Globally, yes.
Yeah, globally.
Yeah. No, I think they know better than to do that because we're, for a number of reasons. We have an overpopulation problem.
Right.
We can't be handed the answers. You can't. That's not how you raise your children. Because if you do, when they go out of the house, they will die. They will not survive. You have to let them learn through trial and error, and the school of hard knocks. They have to, spread their wings and fly themselves. And that's the ETs, I think, meant. They can't cure us all. And if they gave us this technology, if that got into the wrong hands, they're just going to use by the military.
Let's say you're a hybrid.
Already happening.
Let's say you're a hybrid type of individual. Let's say that they're working with you. To me, hybrid tells me that they have a hand in what you're all about, right? And let's say, of course, the only one way to fight a pandemic, and that's to, So what if you don't want them? Can they come in and go, "This isn't good for you. We're going to remove that out of your system"?
I wouldn't put it past them. They've cured many, many chronic conditions.
There we go, people. I was asking.
So I think that they absolutely do have the ability to cure pretty much any illness. Because they've cured tuberculosis, they've cured diphtheria, diabetes, hepatitis, heart disease, tumors of all kinds, 30 plus cases of cancer. Incurable chronic cancer. People were on their deathbed.
I have a friend and client who they did that to numerous times, actually.
Yeah, but again, I feel bad for people who are having negative encounters, because some people will come at me like, "Hey, why are you saying ETs are friendly?" And I'm like, well, because some are. Most people on Earth, I think, are nice people. Maybe not most, but a lot. Once you get to know them, they will give you the shirt off your back. I mean, their back. They will, most people are innately good, I think. But there's, gosh, I think there's some evil influences on our planet. Human.
Yeah, way up at the top there.
Some people are on my naughty list: the banking industry, the insurance industry,
many. Yeah, bad nail technicians. Okay, there's another question that I was asked once before, and I actually think I've heard this personally, but language. So let's say the Greys. Do you have are there any reports of what they sound like, not telepathically, but their own language?
Yes, I have heard this from a number of people. One lady, she says, "Oh yeah, I heard them talking." I'm like, "Well, what do they sound like?" And she goes, "It's very high pitched and squeaky and fast."
Oh, that's different. Okay, I've heard clicking and clacking.
Yes. Yep. Lots of clicks and consonants and.
Yeah, it's just like and things like that, and they speak to when they speak to one another, though, not when they're speaking to you.
Yep.
So is that also gray, or is that a whole other species?
That's gray. But people have encountered human-looking aliens. One guy I interviewed, Joe Gardner, this guy who lives in West Virginia, really neat guy. He was 13 years old, and this UFO lands outside his house, and he wakes up because someone's calling his name in his head, and he's looking at him. He's like, it's like Jojo, and it's not his sister. He tries to wake up his sister. They share a room. She's not waking up. And looks out the window, and there's a flying saucer, and there's a man, and he's waving. He's like, "You want to go for a ride?" And so he creeps out of the house, and unlocks the door and runs across the street and goes up this little ladder type thing. And it's a human-looking male, Caucasian. He's black, and this man talked to him in English out loud. He had a complete bodysuit. All of this Joe could see was just the mouth and part of the nose, and puts him in the chair, shows him how to fly the ship, takes him to Saturn, and says, "Look at that.
I want to go to Saturn."
And that's not unique. This happened to Leo Sprinkle.
Wow.
Major UFO researcher. He's like, "Yeah, when I was a kid, they took me to Saturn."
That's amazing.
And I know other people who have had that happen.
Yeah.
It's so awesome. I'm like, yeah, let's take me on a tour. People have gone to the moon. That's fairly common, actually. I've heard that several times.
I've had a memory, vision, whatever, of just seeing the stars, looking like I was looking through a portal. Because in my mind, logically, it looked like my doorbell camera. I just remember like this, but to me, it's just stars.
Yeah, that's super common. They do that to pretty much everyone I don't want to say everyone, but when you get a tour of the ship, they'll take you up to the top, and there's this observation deck, and it's so cool.
Yeah.
And sometimes what they do is, they don't have windows like normal windows. Often they can just turn the wall transparent, or the entire ship. One guy,
be wiggy, hey?
They turned the entire ship transparent. And he started to get a little bit of vertigo. He's like, it was like Wonder Woman's jet. Heard a number of people say that.
Yeah.
I
had vertigo all day. My equilibrium's been off all day. I wonder if I had an adventure last night that I don't know about. I've been messed up all day. So
they can cure vertigo. I've got a couple of cases.
I don't usually suffer from it. Once a blue moon, my equilibrium will be. It doesn't. I don't know. Whatever. I'm just rambling. You have a question, Amelia?
I have. There's 3 questions. I'll start with. Oh no, there's more coming. I will start with Dan's. He came into the show late, and that's okay, Dan. We're happy you're here. How would you contact them to ask for some intervention? Is it through meditation,
Yes.
We had already talked about cures and that.
Exactly. Meditate. These guys are super telepathic. They will hear you. And if, there's karma comes into play often with this. I've had a number of people who were cured. Like one lady, she was cured of a car accident. They told her, you had actually died in this accident. Your brainstem was severed. We're going to repair you. But we can't repair all your injuries because they're karmic. And I've heard this in other cases. Like, we can only heal so much. You did this to yourself. You brought this on yourself. You have to go through it, this illness. But yeah, people have asked for cures and received them. Have to tell you, it's not super common. 5% of the cases I found, this is how it happens. But there are other ways to cure yourself. People have been cured through out-of-body experiences. And that's probably a little easier to initiate. And is also done through meditation. The techniques for that are easy to find. They're all over the internet. It's just a process of relaxing.
Stuff like that.
Yeah, because he asks how to contact them. Unless you're in contact with them, you wouldn't be able to have communication with them. Is that what you're saying?
No, I'm not saying that at all. If you want to see a UFO and you never have, ask. Go out in your backyard and ask. Mentally call out.
Mantis coming out and just
I'm good.
Chucking you around like a little ball.
Yeah, I'm good. I don't need one. The next questions. Zachman asks, I have two questions. If Greys have bred out of emotions based on contactee experiences, do they have atheist-like spiritual beliefs? Have the Greys shared any knowledge of their culture? Is the second one.
Yes, they have. And I wouldn't call them atheists, but they're certainly not Christians or fundamentalists or any, I don't see them, I don't get accounts, I should say, of what I would call organized religion among the ETs. They're very telepathic, they're very spiritual, and they talk about oneness. That certainly comes up. They talk about consciousness and all the universe being conscious. And God to them, I think this is what I would hear most often, is the universe, the sum of the parts of the universe. The universe is itself sort of a conscious being. And so I think that's sort of the way they look at it. Some guys have asked, is there a God? And that question kind of puzzles them. I think they're very puzzled by our religious beliefs. Which are very...
Many of us are puzzled by the religious beliefs.
Yeah, which are,
technically speaking.
Because they're not based on reality. I mean, you know what I mean?
Send all the hate mail to Preston.
Yeah, Preston Dennett, DENNETT. We do 2 shows a week. You have no idea the emails.
I am here to tell you they are not demonic. They're not. There is a portion of the population that thinks this. And so I looked into that. I did. I looked into demonology, and that's the last thing I wanted to look into. And I do believe there are evil spirits. I really do. And angels too. I'm like, wow, the evidence for angels is pretty compelling. And I respect a person's religion. Let me just throw that up there. I don't, and I think I've known religious people, and they're the really wonderful people. And it is a pathway to the truth, for sure. It absolutely
Do you think that
is.
There's a mix between certain extraterrestrials and the religious belief system? Like some people will say, like the Palladians, for example, or the real light beings are often would be maybe angels, and they'll say, well, reptilians of sorts would be considered demonic. There's a lot of that gets thrown around.
Yeah. I think when someone uses the term demonic, but for me, I think that means the energy, the path they have chosen, sort of, because there are humans who are like, you are like doing things that I would consider demonic. And if you're murdering and killing and torturing,
for sure.
this sort of thing. And one lady, Lynette, I'll call her, the ETs told her flat out, what you thought were angels was us. Throughout history, you've called us angels.
Oh, wow. That's interesting.
Yeah.
The big difference between, well, I mean, unless they're shape-shifting or they're giving you the illusion of what they look like, because it can't be the bad wigs, let's face it. But normally when you see an angel, you just see, wings and beautiful, light beings. When you see a gray, there's a tremendous difference between the two.
Yeah, I think the ETs, going back to religion a little bit, base it on what they're observing in the universe around them and what they've experienced.
Right.
And a lot of our Earth religions are faith-based, I guess you might say.
Yes.
So I think they are concerned about that. And they're really trying to wake people up to spirituality. And what I've found is, like one guy, he was a very conservative religious man from Utah, and had an experience, and that went out the window pretty darn quick, because they woke him up to a greater reality. And what I found is a lot of people who are very religious sort of abandon it at some point and become what we would call spiritual. It's not always true. One guy I interviewed, he's all about Jesus, and I love Jesus. Jesus is awesome. I mean, he healed all kinds of people and had really wonderful messages of kindness and compassion. That was his thing. And so I think that's what the good part of religion. But yeah, ETs can appear as whatever they want. They can appear as angels. And so maybe some of these are what we would call fallen angels, who are, because they're not all nice. I mean, come on, it's a wide, huge universe. And just because you are technologically advanced doesn't necessarily mean you're spiritually advanced. I think it's a greater chance, but not necessarily.
Well, it's getting bigger here.
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Let's go next to Linda asks, how do you feel about the aliens among us theory? And that some people can tell who is of another world and some cannot. Is there truth to this?
Yeah, I think there is. And I started to look into it, and I wrote a little bit about this, a chapter in one of my books, Not From Here, Aliens Among Us. Yeah.
There we go.
There are human-looking aliens. Let's start with that. There's many types, grays, mantids, all kinds of humanoids, but human-looking. It would be so easy for them to walk among us. And I want to also second the possibility that we ourselves are aliens, because I'm not so sure we evolved on this planet. I think a lot of contactees are what we would call hybrids.
Well, if you're going, sorry, itchy nose, I'll sneeze otherwise. Negative blood type, the Rh negative blood type, which doesn't come from the rhesus monkey. Would that be hybrid? Would that be?
It's not a hard and fast rule. It does turn up in a lot of cases, but just because, I mean, if you're O positive doesnment mean you're not going to be taken.
No, for sure. No, for sure. Yeah.
But yeah, they are among us. And I know of cases where people have seen grays and where they shouldn't be on a subway, on,
Sounds like an SNL skit.
I'm telling you, one lady was taken from a cafe on the streets of New York City. They can cloak themselves and show themselves to only one or two people or whoever they want. Here's a good case. John Hunter Gray and his son were driving through Richland Center, Wisconsin, stopped off at a gas station, and there's this guy next to them filling up his Volkswagen Bug. And he's very short. I'm like, well, that's a little odd. And he's got these beady little eyes, and he's staring at them. I'm like, well, that's weird. And he was dressed strangely, too. He had a fisherman's cap, large sunglasses that covered his face, gloves.
Trying to blend in.
Yeah, he was totally in disguise. And he's staring at them. They're like, this guy's creeping us out. And so they take off, and they're heading down the highway, and he instantly follows them. And so they slow way down. No, first they sped up, and he speeds up, and so they slow way, way, way down. He won't pass. So they tried this a couple times, can't shake him. And finally he turns off at a side street, and boom, this saucer comes and lands and takes them. And they feel like this is related. There's a number of cases like this.
Yeah.
Like
Wow.
one guy picked up these hitchhikers, which were, very good-looking young men, and as soon as he drops them off, boom, here comes this UFO. He's taken. And many cases like that, they've been seen in casinos. Charles Hall of Millennial Hospitality fame, he wrote a book about his contacts. He saw them in casinos, but I found 4 other cases. They're walking down the street sometimes. I look for people who are dressed strangely, here's a case from Whitley Strieber, the editor of his book, Bruce Lee, not the karate guy.
Yeah.
An editor walks into the bookstore in New York City to check out the display of the book Communion, which had just been released. And there's these 2 weird people speed reading one of the books. And again, they've got these huge sunglasses, gloves, hats. Every inch of skin is covered. And they're speed reading in a way that's impossible and commenting like, oh, this part's wrong. This part's not right. This part's wrong. And he walks up to them.
I'm going to fall off my chair, seriously.
I'm telling you, this happened.
No, I believe you. I'm just like, they're not that different than us. Yeah.
No, they're more alike us than different. They're as different as we are from each other. So he walks up to them and wants to ask them a question, but one of them turns and looks at him and gives him what he called mad dog eyes. And he said and their eyes were twice as large as normal, and he stumbles back, freaked out, goes to his wife like, they're not human, they're not bloody human. Let's get out of here. And so yeah.
So they weren't impressed with the book.
No, but I found out later, this actually is so weird. I had another case, Ann Witherspoon is her name. She had a gray walk into her, I won't go into her whole life story, but she had a lot of abductions that weren't very nice. But finally, towards the end, in walks this gray. He spreads his arms and says, I love you. And she's like, what? and she's fully conscious. And this isn't scary. He's beaming love at her. And starts to talk to her and says, you need to know why we came, why you were contacted. We're following your genetic lines. We come from a binary star system, or binary or twin. And we're on the 4th planet on this side. And here's our genetics, and here's how we combine them to you. And then it holds up the book Communion.
Wow.
And this is sort of an image of it, right? Because he wasn't carrying this stuff in, but they can do stuff, right?
Yeah.
And so he holds up the book Communion and says, everything in this book that is in regards to us is true. And I thought, wow. I mean, she was freaked out because they looked just like the guy on the cover. and I called up Whitley Strieber. I'm like, Whitley, I've got a story for you.
Yeah, no kidding.
That is crazy. My God.
He was tickled because he was pretty mad when these grays came and says, well, this part's not right. And these other ETs said, well, no, he got everything right that's about us. So maybe he had a few errors here and there about.
We can't please everybody. You do your best.
Yeah. Oh, I wish I could put out a book without errors, but one always slips through.
That's the way it goes, unfortunately. Did you have more questions, Amelia?
Yes, I do.
Okay.
Well, Dan says, I have always read that the Greys were bad. Is there a certain type of ET that you would telepathically try to contact more than others? I'm just going to ask you, why do you want to contact them?
Yeah, Dan. I'd like to know that also.
I'd like to know if you can answer that in the comments because I don't get it, but okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Some are, but they're not here to take over. No. They could so easily. They've already taken over. Let's face it. I mean, it's saturated in our culture. All video games, movies. I mean, you name it. And again, I don't get sadism. I don't get torture. I mean, mostly this is not bad. I think it's good news for us. And the reason I say that is because they will give you a tour of the ship. They will give you warnings about nuclear proliferation, pollution, overpopulation, our warlike ways. They're like, what are you doing? You're going to destroy your planet like we did. And they will teach you how to do out-of-body travel, how to do hands-on healing, how to give psychic readings. They love psychic people. Love them, love them, love them.
I gotta go. I gotta leave the show right now.
I'm always telling her, "Oh, you're getting taken." She's like, "No way." Yeah, wait.
I want nothing of it. I'm serious. I want nothing to do with it. I don't want to know.
Until you relax.
You know what people are sometimes told is, well, you made a soul contract. You actually agreed to this because they talk to your whole being.
I agreed to a lot of stuff, Preston. That's the sad part. Have you seen my life? Apparently, I've agreed to a lot of stuff.
Yeah, they talk to your super conscious, you might say, your whole being, parts that we're not aware of. And so it confuses them when people resist. They're like, why are you resisting? You agreed to this. And they don't quite understand that we are compartmentalized. They don't understand that we're not fully there yet. And if this is something you don't want, you can absolutely break this contract. This has been done. And I've talked to people who've been successful at this. You exert extreme willpower and say, no, you do not have my permission, period. Stop it. I don't want this anymore. Stop.
Right.
And that's not always successful because sometimes they're going to do it. They're going to find you. You can't run away from this. It's, I think, best, healthiest to face it head on. But some people no, I'm just going to live a normal life. I'll call these my weird nightmares. Don't want to talk about it. And there's
a way, obviously, to ease into it. I mean, people seem to be having, I think if you don't struggle and if you don't give them any problems, it seems to really go in a much different direction, like almost with fringe benefits.
Part of it is to wake you up to your own power. I think this is one of the reasons they appear, because they want you to become autonomous. They want you to know who you really are, that you do have all the power of the universe within you.
Sure, we're a species with amnesia, basically.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And they're like, we need to wake these people up because look what they're doing. They're going to do exactly what we did. This is terrible. We need to do something. And sometimes people need a horrific abduction because they are in denial. They have their head up there, so darn deep that
I get it.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
No, it's true.
No, like Dan wrote, why wouldn't someone want to contact them? It would be an honor to talk with them and gain some of their knowledge and insight. I just have fear. I don't understand why people contact demons either. So for me, that same fear level is there. It's just I'm not comfortable.
Yeah,
I don't know if just because you reach out and contact, you're going to have that experience.
That's the thing. You don't know which way your abduction experience is going to go. It might be like a probing kind of evening, or it might be an educational kind of evening.
I've talked to people who've had the same exact experience. And when it's like, oh, this was terrible. It was demonic. I hate it. And this other person was like, it wasn't that bad. And I'm like, but you guys had the same exact experience. So it's partly,
Thanks, Dan.
We are very fear-based. We've been taught to fear. And I think people need to understand that the universe is a safe place. And bad things happen. But what's the worst that can happen to you? You die. I think that's the ultimate. But actually, death is going to the other side. It's very healing. It's wonderful. And all the trauma is gone, and you get to just bask in the heavenly light. On the other side, it's awesome there. And then you come back to learn your lesson that you weren't ready to learn. But fear can be overcome with love. It truly can.
Okay. That I was going to say, your point is amazing that, you're there, you're love, and you're progressing, but in the same respect, you haven't finished your first contract. So you have to come back. What if you don't want to come back? It's like,
Earth is hard. Kudos to all people on Earth. I love you so much because damn, this is hard. It hurts. It's scary. It's terrifying. I'm like, what? We're gonna die? I was so shocked when I was a little kid and found that out. I couldn't believe it. And I'm still mad. I'm still mad about it.
So here's another question with the death card then. Can they take your essence and just kind of like store it and put you anywhere pretty much that they want? I mean, they seem to be able to control everything else.
They do pull people out of their body.
Right there. Okay.
Yeah. People will have what I would call an astral abduction. And
I get it all.
But I don't think we're
so about that deja vu.
Yeah, about that deja vu. No, okay, sorry, go ahead, Preston.
Yeah, they contact people in a wide variety of ways. It can be purely telepathic, like inspiration, or it can be just a sighting with a little message, or it can be face-to-face contact in your living room, or you can be driving down the road late at night on a rural highway, or it can be in your condo. I've got a number of hotel room encounters. They have called people up on the phone. No kidding.
I've had weird shit happen to me like that.
Telling you, yeah, you're talking about the clicks and that they do that.
No, I could growl that, but I when I heard that was using a piece of equipment that I was testing, and when they were speaking, I asked us to speak English, and to which they seemed to comply. But in the background, whenever they would talk to each other, you would hear click clacks and all kinds of stuff. And I made some comment about, oh, must be their language. It was like, oh, very observant or something. It's like very sarcastic if you ask me, but okay. Wow. But it was weird. I recorded that. I recorded it because it was just so like, what?
I know two people. Well, Whitley Strieber, he had him talk through his stereo. Happened to another guy in Colorado. They've appeared on people's TVs.
There's so many here.
It's electronic. It can do any of that, right?
Yeah. They can stop your car engine. They turn out lights. They affect radios. They come over the radio a number of times. And yes, the telephone. One guy I interviewed in upstate New York, he had a call. It was like no such number, and it was ringing in a way it couldn't ring. And he didn't want to answer it, but it kept ringing. So he finally answers it, and they said, and all these clicks and buzzes, and finally it says, the time is coming, or what did they say? We are coming. The time is soon. We are coming. The time is soon. He click, hangs up. He didn't like his encounters and was abducted that evening.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. He has a little bit of a heads up there, that'd be a little. Yeah, what are the signs? Well, that one might be a good one. So
talk about a wake-up call
tonight. Yeah. I don't know. I guess there could be worse things. Really.
Huh?
Well, as we all sit here pondering, going, well, I don't know.
No, because like I've got so many comparisons with Dark Side and Aliens in my head right now. But as
I'm more scared of humans.
Well, I am as well. But do you ever have where before you're on a show that your hosts have experiences, either the day before or the day of, that you will be appearing on their show?
Oh, well, I do know one guy who had a gray appear outside his window while he was hosting a radio show. I was on his show.
Yes.
But
okay, so during us.
I've had things running around while I'm doing a radio show. Not tonight, though.
No, I'm still waiting for one to appear on The View or The Talk, or
Yeah.
It could happen. There's a lag. They could just blank that right out without us even knowing, because they do have a 30-second lag on The View.
And for all we know, I mean, some well-known public figures might be these guys living on Earth and not telling anybody and just doing the good work,
Absolutely. Yeah.
I would agree with you on that.
I mean, maybe Oprah's an alien. Sorry, Oprah. but this isn't, you know what I mean?
She's quite accomplished. You would think she's had some experiences.
Some people will tell you that, the whole elite and the reptilians and.
Yeah, some of these politicians I really wonder about.
You've got to.
I mean, serious. Are these reptilians, because that's, I think, where we have a lot of our problems is with our sociopathic leaders who are liars, corrupt, deceptive, suppressing the truth. This unequal distribution of wealth drives me crazy. And the wars and it just can't go on. It's not sustainable. It's not progressive. I mean, what are you thinking?
It's killing the earth. They talk about us with our plastic. What about all their explosives and all those visits into space killing the ozone layer and all this other stuff? It's funny how theirs gets turned off, but ours is always removed.
What about blocking out the sun? That's a new
BG. And by the way, the ETs don't have, as near as I can tell, a government, a federalized system, or a council or anything like that. The Galactic Council. I haven't heard anyone.
That's interesting.
There's a few reports of it, but because the people I've talked to who are really in good contact are like have asked this, and they're like, oh no, we don't have government. We cooperate. They don't have money. They don't have a money system. Everyone works for the universal good. Everyone gets to work in the area that they are interested in. And there's a lot of, because they're all. You can't lie if you're telepathic. You can't hide the truth.
But they do have ranks.
Yeah, apparently they do. Nelda is the highest ranking female on this one ship.
There you go.
I thought that was really interesting. My first thought was is there sexual discrimination? I don't have any evidence of that, but apparently, according to the contact,
it was an interesting statement.
Yeah, I think that they're, as near as I can tell, they don't have a federalized government. But I don't know. There's all different kinds of races. I'm sure there are humans on other planets. I don't think we're going to go extinct should something happen, because God knows they've collected enough of our genetic material and all the animals and all the plants. And people are taken on board and they see arboretums. They see forests. They see alien zoos. It's like the little Noah's Arks, some of them. Well, big Noah's Arks.
I've heard about that here on planet Earth. It's, why sometimes you'll get like cryptozoology. You'll get different sort of beings here that we can't trace at all.
Like the chupacabra. Where did that come from?
That's one right there. Yeah, a little vampire. Yes.
That's so weird. So weird.
And, Bigfoot and Loch Ness Monster. I mean, some of it you can sort of go back to evolution, but Mothman for sure. Skinwalkers, there's all kinds of them out there. Wolfmen.
Well, even Loch Ness, you wonder sometimes.
Vampires, things like that.
The whole Dogman thing really threw me for a loop. I'm like, what, werewolves? What?
We're surrounded by them. We're surrounded by them, Preston.
Comes to
make a trip up here.
Yeah, I have two it didn't happen to me. I did have a Bigfoot encounter, but I've talked to people who've seen the Dogman or Dogman.
Terrifying.
I wonder if there's dog women. There's gotta be.
Well, there has to be if they're reproducing.
Right.
Being politically correct and all.
Dog children. There are baby Bigfoot. People have seen that.
Big women. Bigfoot women. Yes. Sorry, Amelia, go ahead.
No, not at all. Thank you, Michelle. Dan's asking, what are Preston's thoughts on underground bases? And then we have a couple more.
Yeah, definitely. I think they are there. Particularly, I've done a lot of research on USOs off the Southern California coast, which is one of the top producers in the world. I mean, mile for mile, the San Pedro, Santa Catalina channel. I've got like 150 cases. And I'm like, some of them involve not one or two objects or even 10 or 20, but we're talking 40, 50, like 200 objects coming out of the water in a couple of cases. I'm like, holy cow. Wow. Is there a parking lot down there? What is there a base? And I started
hide them all. Yeah.
I started to think, well, there's a base, because I've had a number of contactees tell me I think there's a base down there. And like I said, some people have been taken to what appears to be a base, and that was in this area. And I'm like, well, I charted all the sightings, and I'm like, well, it seems to be mostly really thick here off the coast of Malibu. And then in 2006, this image went viral of the Malibu anomaly. And it's this weird structure with a very flat top. It's huge. It's got pillars, columns. It's under like 1,000 feet of water. It's very deep in this area, by the way, up to a mile deep in parts.
Wow.
And it's got a tunnel. Clearly, I mean, and there's a lot of people on the, trying to debunk this. A lot of people are supporting it. I'm kind of on the fence about it, but it's right exactly where I predicted it would be. And that's one, I think, base. I think there's probably one at Mount Shasta. A lot of really good reports coming from that.
Yes.
Not one or two. We've got like dozens of people saying, I've been inside Mount Shasta. There's a city there. The Lemurians. And other places. I think there's probably multiple. Our military has a number of these undersea bases. And the United States there's another United States underground. Honestly, there is.
Wow, that's interesting.
That's where the secret government does their dirty work. I mean, there's these military bases often go many, many stories underground. It's crisscrossed with tunnels. And this is true in a lot of countries. There's been a lot of digging. And our Earth might not be hollow as we think of it, but it's certainly honeycombed.
Wow.
And a lot of reports of ETs coming out of caverns and stuff like this.
I believe you. Do you think they're in cahoots, the government and some? Yeah.
Yep, I sure do. I mean, we've got firsthand reports of this.
So how do you trust ET then if you know they're in cahoots with your government?
Well, there's a very famous case.
Don't trust your government. So.
I trust the government less, honestly. And I know some abductees who have been abducted by ETs, and then they're abducted by the government. And they said, well, actually, the government treated me much worse and kept me for longer and were really rude. And but like there's one very famous case in 1954 at Edwards Air Force Base where allegedly President Eisenhower and a number of high-level officials met with ETs diplomatically, which sounds outrageous, but stories came out immediately after this happened, and it's continued to be corroborated, and more verification is coming of this. Many researchers are taking this very seriously, and in that meeting, the ETs said, you need to grow spiritually. And we're like, well, no, we want your technology. And they're like, no, you need to disclose. And we're like, no, that'll destroy religion and our economy, and it'll upset politics and blah, blah, blah. And so there was an impasse, and the ETs essentially said, okay, you're not going to disclose. We're going to do a publicity campaign. And that's what they're doing. They are going person to person, flying over city centers like Phoenix or Gulf Breeze or Withville, Virginia, or Hudson Valley, or the Topanga Canyon, Belgium.
Hudson Valley, that's another big one.
Yeah, and they're showing themselves off on purpose. Schoolyard UFOs. I did a book on that.
Yes.
100 cases of them hovering over playgrounds, mostly elementary schools. Just over half is elementary schools, the youngest of our kids, and saying, hi, here we are, we're real. And my latest book, UFOs at the Drive-In, where they're hovering over drive-in theaters and showing themselves off to groups of 200 to 300 people at a time. I have 100 cases. So how many people is that? 200 times 100, like 20,000 people. And you can times that by 100 because most people don't report it. So, gosh, 200,000 people have seen UFOs at drive-in theaters, I'm estimating.
Wow. At drive-in theaters. Jeez.
Yeah. Right next to the screen, right above it, right on either side. And they come very low level, long lasting, and they'll put on a display. They'll flash their lights. They'll dart around. They'll release smaller craft. They put on a show. They're like, you want a show, huh? Well, watch this. Watch this. We'll give you a show.
And nowadays, that would be so much more difficult to prove that it's ET because all the graphics and all the technology we have. If I was at the drive-in, that would not be the first thing that came to my mind. I'd be thinking, wow, they've got some really great lights around here. That's a really cool show.
Yeah, look,
it's a little harder to prove it right now. It's a little hard to prove it when you can create a military plane and put it in the sky, and 100,000, 200,000 people say they saw that military plane. there wasn't one there.
Yeah, you have to be very careful.
It's a tough one. Yeah.
A number of, I've been approached by people within government or who know, and they're like, you have to be careful. A lot of the UFOs people are seeing are not extraterrestrial. These big triangular craft often are us, craft seen near military bases. If a UFO is shooting at you, I'm more than likely it's a human.
Yeah.
But yeah, we do have to be careful. These drones are a big problem right now, and Photoshop. But there are ways to determine. UFO craft don't make a whole lot of noise. It's a soft whooshing noise, a buzzing noise, a musical sort of transformer type noise.
Yeah, and holographic technology doesn't make any noise either. That's a tough one. That's a tough one.
Very tough.
May I get something from the chat room? Is that okay?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, thank you. Linda wrote earlier, up here where she lives, so many people have told her they've seen crafts either go down under the lake or come up out of it. Are there underwater bases as well?
Yeah, one off the Southern California coast. They can go into lakes, little tiny lakes, like Lake Hamilton in Hot Springs, Arkansas. Got a case there. Lake Miku. I'm gonna butcher this pronunciation. Lake Ikisuki, Mikusuki, something like that. Got a case there where they're underwater. Lots of cases in upstate New York when they're in tiny little reservoirs. They are. It's a great place for them to hide out because we don't have super easy access to underwater, and
that's true.
So it's easy for them to hang out there. And for that matter, they can go through solid ground. I was talking to one guy. He's driving along the highway in Fresno, California. Thought it was a jet crashing on the highway, but it swerves and goes into the ground. And it wasn't a jet. It was these two spheres. Boom. The ground almost seemed to open up. They have shields or force fields that allow them to do this. So they don't need a tunnel to go to their base. I bet there's a lot of bases. There's some good evidence
in the mountains. There are images of ships that you think it's going to crash right into the mountain, and all of a sudden it's just like, right, and it's gone. Sometimes there are images of something opening up, and they just go inside, and the mountain just seems to just close over it. It's crazy.
The Superstition Mountains in Sedona, probably why they call them Superstition. But yeah, if you see something coming up, because normally when someone sees a UFO, it's like a little star-like light way up there. It's off on the horizon and it's shooting towards you. But if it's coming up, from behind a canyon wall or coming up from below, that's a really good indication of something there probably.
Yeah, remember that, boys and girls, when you're back in an area, don't go back. You see something weird going on, go the other way. Sometimes you're just giving a nice. Sometimes there's an obvious, universe giving you that sign. So, sometimes some people are a little thicker. It's like, no, I think I'm gonna go back and see what's going on there. It's like, okay,
I'm going back. I am.
Yeah, it's like, well,
I want to.
Yeah,
I want to see them.
So you're a glutton for punishment. Have you not had your own experiences? You write about it. You have?
I have. Actually, I didn't. Not growing up. I was a skeptic. Didn't believe in this crap. You're all liars. You guys are on drugs. This is what I'm thinking. You are idiots, all of you. What are you thinking? And I apologize. I'm very sorry. You were right.
Turns out it wasn't LSD.
I was, shortly after I became a researcher, I started to have sightings. And I had missing time. I think I did, honest to God. I had this ball of light come down in front of my car. It was just a little ball of light, like a tennis ball, and starting around, it shoots away. And that's all I remember. I don't remember driving home. I would have remembered driving home. I was right next to my brother's house. I just left. We were talking about UFOs.
Yeah.
I would have turned around and said, oh my God, this happened to me. And I didn't. I forgot about it, actually. I completely forgot.
Wow. But then they wipe your memory too, right? So
yeah, I've always told people, like, what? You had a UFO taken in the sky and you forgot? How is that possible? I'm like, well, sorry, I get it now. I understand.
I know. That's a thing. Yeah.
So yeah, I've had that, and that was the first, and there's been at least 10 others since then.
Wow.
Yeah, some really good ones. One talked to me once. I couldn't believe it. Oh my God. I was just out of my mind. I couldn't believe it. I had interviewed this lady. It was the lady who kicked an alien in the neck.
Oh.
That's her. She was telling me she had hybrid babies, and she stopped an abduction. She says, put me back, you bastards. And they did.
Oh, I didn't want another karate chop.
Yeah. And so I'm like, I'm transcribing her interview. I'm like, oh, I wonder if this lady's for real. I know she is. She's a great lady, and she's super. We've since become very good friends.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I don't know. I think it's real, but this is a lot. And I got this really strong impulse to run under the roof of my condo where I lived back in Canoga Park some years ago, 1990s.
Mm-hmm.
And I couldn't resist it. It got too strong. And this has never happened to me before since. And I don't go up on the roof. It's against the rules. And I'm a pretty lawful guy for the most part. I am a little mischievous. Yes, I will admit that. I enjoy a good practical joke every now and then. But no, I try to obey the rules. I try.
I like that. You really do try.
So I couldn't stop myself. I grabbed my glasses, which I use for driving. I'm slightly nearsighted. It's not terrible though.
Mm-hmm.
I can see pretty good. And but I grab my glasses for whatever reason. I get on the roof of the condo, and I have my glasses. I'm like, what am I doing? You're an idiot. What are you doing up here? And I wasn't up there more than 30 seconds. I think it's probably closer to 15. And I'm looking north over this little parking lot across the LA River to the street across from me, which is 200 feet away. And this ball of light appears, this big orange orb. I don't know quite how big it was, but it was big. And it says, it's us. We're Wendy's ETs. You don't believe? Watch this. And it wasn't in words. It wasn't like English words. It was like a very strong impression. Like, hey, you don't believe? Watch this. Watch what we can do. And they did. And they started darting around, back and forth, and super tight angles, very fast, over and over and over again. And I'm like, okay. She's telling the truth. Fine.
Look how snarky about it.
How does one prove that they've had hybrid babies?
That's a good question.
Yeah, I'm not sure you can prove it necessarily. You certainly know, because there's a difference between belief and knowledge. If you experience something, you know. I mean, no one can talk you out of it if you saw your hybrid baby. And they can disbelieve you all you want, but all they want. But if you know, you know. But as far as I know, no one's ever gotten like solid proof. Well, wait. Actually, I am going to reverse my opinion.
Right.
Because there are people who have pregnancy tests that show positive, and they have not slept with anybody. How can you prove that, though? But yeah, one lady I talked to, she was 7.5 months pregnant. Full-on pregnancy tests. She showed me, photos, midwife reports, and the baby went missing. And boy, were the doctors interested.
Heard of that, yes.
I'd imagine the police be interested too.
Yeah, she had all kinds of trouble getting medical care because, red tape. She was new to the country. After that, they're like, "Oh, please come. Oh, no problem. We'll examine you anytime." And
I guess try to explain that one. It's just
another lady who was having contact lost a twin in utero. She had twins and lost one. And they're like, your other baby's not going to survive. So 1 in 5 million chance it won't happen. But she was having contact, and the ETs were very interested. And the nurse comes in after the amniocentesis and pregnancy tests, looking around all secretive. Says, I shouldn't be telling you this. I'm not allowed to, but you have to know. I feel like you have to know that your pregnancy tests are being sent to a government lab. And I've never seen this before. Thankfully,
so was this a government abduction or an alien abduction?
This was alien for sure. Yeah, the ETs told her, "Stop being so political. Why are you supporting Ross Perot?" That's
Ross Perot, no less.
I said, "Why are you doing this? If the whole political system is gonna fall apart. There's gonna be a civil war. It's all gonna break down. It's gonna get really, really nasty. And if you're a part of it, you're a part of the problem. Don't get involved in politics." And she did, and after that, she's like, "Okay, fine."
Right.
And look what's happening now. Yeah, it is nasty, and it is very divisive.
It is, yeah, different times for sure. So I've heard stories like that. I've heard of people who, couldn't have children, only to go to the doctors, and the doctor says, "Oh, you've had children."
Yep. Or, "Where's your appendix?" "What? You had an appendectomy?" "No, I never had one." "Yes, you did." "Oh, you've had surgery, haven't you?" Like one lady, she went for surgery to get her tumor removed, and the ETs came, and she goes to the doctor. It was that night, of course. Goes to the doctor, and they're like, "Well, you had surgery." They were really upset, and she's like, "No, I didn't. I didn't." And I said, "Don't lie to us. Who did you go to?" "Nobody." She said, "You're lying because we know you've had surgery. Your tumor is gone. There's fluid in your fallopian tube, which can't be present. It's only present after surgery. And what's this laser scar on your abdomen?" And she's like, "I don't know."
Just like, wow. Trick question. That is insane.
Yeah. One guy did tell the doctors because he had puncture wounds and bruises. He woke up once his foot was broken. Jim Schaefer, poor guy, he passed away recently. But he told his doctor, "It's aliens, it's aliens. I'm telling you, it's aliens." His doctor's like, I believe you. Diagnosed with cancer on his neck, and had an experience with an orb that came into his body. He filmed it, actually filmed this thing happening. Falls asleep, wakes up the next morning, his tumor is gone.
And he filmed it?
He filmed this orb going into his body. Yep.
Wow.
And it's the only case I know of someone who filmed their actual healing. I'm not sure. Well, it wasn't quite like that, but he filmed it. And that morning he wakes up, there's no tumor. He goes to the doctor and for surgery. And like, "Well, we didn't find any cancer. We removed your necrotic tissue, but you're right, there's no cancer." And they didn't put "patient healed by aliens." They put, what did they do? Spontaneous remission or unexplained healing. Because they can't prove that ETs did it, but it's good evidence. He sent me his medical records. He showed me. So
that is crazy.
Wow.
Yeah, no kidding. Wow. What do you say to that? Seriously.
Some people are injured, but some are healed. It's a bell curve. And it's mostly, I could much more easily prove humans are hostile than ETs. It would be so easy to prove, because when someone's kidnapped here, it's terrible. It almost always ends with a tragic ending. But when someone's kidnapped by ETs, they come back and they're spiritually transformed. They're healed of cancer. And they've got PTSD.
No kidding. I mean, I know people who've had night terrors from like a young child, not knowing why there's been night terrors going on.
My heart breaks. It's been a real problem. I think ETs had a real tough learning curve with us. And I think that's lessened to a certain extent because they've come to the realization that we are emotional. And they're very, very, very interested in our emotions.
All of a sudden, yeah. And pain levels. And so if they're looking for bloodline, what's the oldest bloodline you've come across?
Gosh, I know Jim Sparks. He's an abductee who's fairly well known in the field, who doesn't go under hypnosis. He remembers everything.
Wow.
And they showed him, "Oh, we're following your bloodline, and here you are in Victorian times. And here you are in Roman times." And then they showed him cavemen with clubs and everything.
Wow.
Like, "We've been following you since," one lady, she was told that they've been following her since the times of David and Solomon, which I guess is biblical times.
Wow.
So it goes way, way, way back. But fully, confirmed. It's about 4 or 5 generations that we know of, where people are like, my great grandmother said the demons came and got her. Whereas the daughter's like, well, they're grays.
But back then that would have been, and it's so funny because the ancients coexisted and learned from aliens all the time. They depicted them in all their imageries or paintings or on the cave walls, and enter religion, and all of a sudden it's all taboo and nobody remembers anything. We're terrified of them, which probably brings me to the next question. What do you think about disclosure? Do you think it's going to happen? Do you think it should happen?
Do I think it should happen? Yes, 100% yes. And I think the ETs are pushing towards it. And once we get it, we will have open official contact. And I think it will happen. You can't hide the truth. Buddha said that. There's 3 things you can't hide: the sun, the moon, and the truth.
Right. It's true.
And it's like trying to hide the reality of UFOs is like trying to hide the sun. I mean, you can't. But do I trust the government to tell us the truth? Well, just looking at their history, no, I don't. And there's this disclosure movement right now, and they did say flat out, we have material from otherworldly vehicles. That's awesome. I'm like, wow, why isn't that front page news? What the heck? Why isn't everyone
trying to minimize it? Right.
But it's kind of disingenuous to say, oh, we have material. I'm like, wait, you have the ships. You have more than the Roswell craft. You have 100 ships. You have bodies. You have excellent footage, not this little tic-tac footage, which is great. But they have gun camera footage. They have all kinds of footage. They have more than just material. And these documents that are upcoming in June or July, they're spinning this. They're going to spin this to make the ETs look bad. There's been a very concerted campaign to sort of smear the Greys and make them look evil. And probably some are. But some are absolutely benevolent. People think of them as their family, as their friends. They said they've never felt this kind of unconditional love from anyone. So again, I'm going to say these are people. These are people like us. They're doing the things we would do if we were to come to another planet. And let's hope you don't get, the evil human coming to your planet. One person asked me the greatest question. He's like, do ETs get abducted by other ETs?
That's a great question.
Right? I'm like, wow. And that one I'm going to ask some contactees that I know, because I want to know that.
Next time you have your little interaction with them, you can ask them. So have you ever been abducted? I can write your book.
Has an ET been impregnated? Are they have hybrid? You know what I mean?
But I would say to a degree, yes, because you look at the mantis, and then they've got the tall blacks that are pretty much mantis, but completely black, and their eyes are a little bit different, and allegedly they are a creation or hybrid of a mantis.
Yeah, we're all hybrids. I think there's a great book out, Humans Are Not From Earth by Ellis Silver. And I've been telling this people for a while, because we're not really that well adapted to this planet.
That is true.
He builds a very compelling argument.
The sense of longing to be somewhere else, that you don't belong, things like that.
Oh, heard that a million times.
Yeah.
But I think we're being upgraded. I really do. Our longevity has doubled in the past couple hundred years. He seemed to be very interested in that. One guy from Florida asked them flat out. He's like, if you're taking me, heal my hernia. And they're like, okay, fine. They healed it. He says, why are you taking me? They said, we are interested in your genetic potential to live a long time.
There's a price.
Yeah, they told him that. We are interested in you because you're long-lived. And his grandfather was 106.
Wow.
So that points to me that they're interested in longevity and trying to upgrade us. They love us. They are obsessed with humans.
Clearly.
They truly are. They are very interested in everything about us.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sorry.
It's okay. It's all right.
Any last questions before we have to sign off, Amelia?
Yeah, we have quite a few, actually. Well, there's comments as well. Raf MOS wrote, predictions mentioned that civil war is on the way. Dan asks, as for whistleblowers, who would Preston think is the most reliable source? William Cooper, perhaps? Paul Hellyer, ex-Canadian defense minister?
I like both those guys. Paul Hellyer, for sure. I met him. Really an honest, sincere guy. And William Cooper's book, Behold a Pale Horse, has been a bestseller in the top 20 books for a long, long time. I had his book and it disappeared under very mysterious circumstances. I don't know where the heck it is. I had it. I don't know what the heck happened.
Wow. Funny that.
So yeah, there's some excellent whistleblowers. I've talked to some guys. I'm like, oh my God. One guy was on his deathbed. Contacted me from his hospital bed. He had a chronic disease and wasn't expected to live. And told me an amazing story how he saw this UFO at Edwards Air Force Base. He was a construction worker. And, he learned it was actually a reverse engineered from ET technology. It wasn't ET, it was ours, but built from ET technology.
Wow.
Yeah, lots of whistleblowers out there.
It's got to happen. It's got to happen, because otherwise we're just going to be left in the dark. That's why I've had people say, when my experiences started sort of resurfacing, I had some friends who were on the fence that we shouldn't say anything. And then other people who are experienced are saying, no, let it out there. Just don't hide it. Let it out there. Just it doesn't make you any more special than anybody else. No reason for, prying anything to come into your life, so that's what I do.
Often ETs say, don't talk, don't tell anyone, keep quiet. But now I'm hearing much more. Tell people, tell your story. You must write about this.
I guess so. Well, I have to credit my producer, Joe Montaldo, for that, because he's just like, no, just go out there and just do it. And I was like, yeah, you know what? Because he's also the same, abductee experiencer, the whole 9 yards, and researches it and such. And it's like, man, I think personally, it's the best thing that I could do. And just through time and probing, not literally, I have to throw that out there. But I've become comfortable with it as information surfaces, so to speak. And it's not always an easy task because it's very intrusive. So
yeah. Well, things are changing. I'm very interested to see how this rolls out.
Me too. Me too.
I'm good with putting my head in the sand. Thanks.
Don't be silly, Bubbles. We'll get you through it. No problem.
Knowledge is power. Knowledge is power. That's all I keep saying. Knowledge is power. Everybody's had a really great time. They all said that it was a great show. Thank you all in there for joining us and asking your questions. They're great.
Yeah, it's awesome to see everybody in there. And I've really enjoyed, having you on the first time, and just super enjoyed having you on tonight, because of course Amelia can join us tonight too. So it's like double trouble, which is always fun. So, we'll definitely have to do it again. I would love to do it again, maybe towards the end of the year when you have your other book out.
Oh, that's right. I promised a sneak peek. Darn it.
Yes. Yes.
It's called Wondrous, and I didn't get to tell you any real stories from it. So
that's okay. We'll just save it for when you come out with it, because we're booking well into the fall anyway.
Yeah,
so
we'll get a chance to read it.
Yeah, that'll be awesome if you're willing. If you're not too tired of us.
Oh, I love you guys. Are you kidding? You're awesome.
Thank you.
It's been such an honor and a pleasure. Thank you, Preston.
So we have to sign off, and I have to sign us off. So, of course, we've come to another great segment. We've come to the end, sadly. But thank you to everybody who tuned in. Of course, big thank you to Preston Dennett, and of course, our producer, Joe Montaldo. Remember to stop by the United Paranormal Radio, or UFO Paranormal, and United Public Radio. Darn it, just do them both, and subscribe. And while you're at it, show us some love. Get over on Facebook to the Outer Realm, and follow us on Instagram. Amelia's really great for keeping everything up. Join us tomorrow night as we welcome back Richard. Am I going to say this right? Estep? Estep? How does he like to be? Estep. I thought I had it right the first time. And then somebody says, oh, I don't know if he likes that. I'm like, God, which one was it? So sorry, Richard.
I always think it's the one that sounds the least natural to you. That's how I remember it.
That could work. That could work. So anyway, we'll be talking about his new book. And of course, we'll be yattering about the paranormal and all that fun stuff. So thank you all for joining us. And until tomorrow night, behave yourselves. Stay safe. We're under lockdown, so we have to behave ourselves.